Jane, my Jane, the woman who'd once been the sun in my solar system, was starting to resemble a dying star, her light flickering with an unpredictable intensity that made me question the gravitational pull that had held us together for so long. We'd been the it couple, the high school sweethearts who defied the odds and actually made it work. Our love a beacon of hope in the hormone-fueled wasteland of teenage angst. But lately, the idyllic picture had started to resemble a Picasso painting, distorted, fragmented, and leaving me with a nagging sense of unease. "Honey, are you even listening?" Jane's voice, sharp as a stiletto heel, pierced through my daydreams, her words a reminder that the woman who used to gaze at me with doe-eyed adoration now looked at me with the impatience of a customer service representative dealing with a particularly clueless Karen. "Of course, darling," I'd reply, my voice a carefully modulated blend of affection and a hint of weariness that I couldn't quite conceal. "You were saying something about the exorbitant price of organic kale and the existential crisis of finding the perfect shade of lipstick for your, what was it again? A Pilates class with a celebrity fitness guru?" She'd roll her eyes, a gesture that had once been playful but now carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken complaints. "You're not funny, John," she'd retort, her tone a subtle accusation that I was somehow failing to meet her ever-shifting expectations. And maybe I was, because the Jane who used to laugh at my jokes, the Jane who used to appreciate my quiet stability, the Jane who used to look at me like I was the only man in the world, was slowly being replaced by a woman whose attention seemed to gravitate towards the flashier, the louder, the more attention-seeking members of our social circle. "Did you see the way Mark was checking you out at the party last night?" Jim, my best friend, and, ironically, Jane's former high school crush, would remark with a knowing grin that made me want to punch him in his perfectly sculpted jaw. "Mark," I'd scoff, though the seed of doubt had already been planted, its roots twisting uncomfortably in the pit of my stomach. "He's just being friendly. Jane wouldn't—" But the doubt lingered, a persistent itch beneath the surface of my carefully maintained composure. Jane's laughter seemed a little too loud when Mark was around, or her touch a little too lingering, her eyes a little too bright with a spark that wasn't meant for me. And Jim? Well, he was a goddamn enigma. We'd been friends since kindergarten, shared scraped knees and half-eaten candy bars, and even competed for the affections of the same girl back in our awkward teenage years. But he'd been a good sport about it. Accepted Jane's choice with a grace that had solidified our friendship, a bond that had weathered the storms of adolescence and the shifting tides of adulthood. Yet there was a tension now, an unspoken undercurrent in our interactions, a subtle shift in the dynamics that had once been as comfortable as a worn-in pair of jeans. The Christmas party, usually a festive shit show of drunken karaoke and questionable mistletoe encounters, had turned into a goddamn Greek tragedy. I'd been stuck at my parents' place, playing the dutiful son and enduring my Aunt Mildred's annual interrogation about my intentions for starting a family, as if popping out a kid was as simple as ordering a pizza with extra pepperoni. Meanwhile, Jane and Jim, those two party animals with a penchant for tequila shots and questionable dance moves, were apparently getting their groove on in a way that wasn't exactly in the holiday spirit. The phone call came at 3 a.m., the insistent ringing a jarring counterpoint to the eggnog-induced coma I was trying to cultivate. It was Jim, his voice a shaky mess of guilt and desperation that would make a hungover choir boy sound like a heavy metal vocalist. "John, buddy," he stammered, his words slurring together like a drunken sailor's sea shanty. I fucked up. Big time." My initial thought was that he'd somehow managed to set fire to the Christmas tree again, a recurring tradition that had become a source of amusement and mild terror for our group of friends. "Dude, what did you do?" I groaned, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, the premonition of disaster a bitter taste in my mouth. It's about Jane," he confessed, his voice cracking with a remorse that sent a shiver down my spine. We, He trailed off, the unspoken confession hanging in the air like a toxic fart in a crowded elevator. And then it hit me, the realization dawning with the force of 1,000 suns exploding in my brain. Jane, Jim, the Christmas party, the tequila shots, the questionable dance moves. Oh, fuck. "You slept with her," I stated, my voice a flat monotone that belied the volcanic eruption of emotions in my chest. "I'm so sorry, John," he choked out, the guilt in his voice as thick as the gravy on my Aunt Mildred's Christmas roast. I didn't mean to. We were drunk. It was a mistake. A mistake?" I echoed, the word a bitter laugh that died in my throat. "You call betraying your best friend, screwing his wife, a mistake?" I know," he babbled, his voice a desperate plea for absolution. "I'm an asshole, a scumbag, a what, Jim?" I interrupted, the anger finally breaking through the shock, the betrayal a burning ember in the pit of my stomach. "A friend? A confidant? The guy I trusted with my life, my wife, my everything." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening, a testament to the magnitude of his transgression, the irreparable damage he had inflicted on our friendship, on my marriage, on my goddamn faith in humanity. "I'll do anything, John," he finally said, his voice a broken whisper. "Anything to make it right. Just tell me what to do." "Anything?" I echoed, the word a dark promise hanging in the air. "Then disappear. Vanish from my life. Pretend this never happened. Because I don't know if I can ever look at you or her the same way again." The phone call ended, the dial tone a funeral dirge for a friendship that had died a sudden, brutal death. I lay in bed, the darkness amplifying the chaos in my mind, the betrayal a poison seeping through my veins. Jane. My Jane. The woman I had loved, trusted, built a life with. She had betrayed me. With my best friend. The irony was as sharp as a shard of broken glass, twisting in my gut, drawing blood. And Jim. My Jim. The brother I never had, the confidant, the rock I had always leaned on. He had betrayed me, too, shattered the trust we had built over years of shared experiences, laughter, and a bond that had seemed unbreakable. The questions swirled in my mind, a vortex of doubt and despair. How could they? Why? What had I done to deserve this? Was I so blind, so naive, so goddamn oblivious to the cracks that had been widening beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect lives? The anger warred with the hurt, the betrayal with the disbelief, the desire for revenge with the fear of losing the two people who had meant the world to me. And as the first rays of dawn painted the sky with a cruel mockery of hope, I knew that my life, my world, my very sense of self had been irrevocably altered. The game had changed, the rules rewritten, the stakes raised to a level I wasn't sure I was ready to play. But play I would. Because I was John, and John didn't back down, didn't forgive, didn't forget. John got even. The New Year's Eve party was a blur of forced smiles and champagne that tasted like betrayal. Jane, my Jane, the woman who was supposed to be my better half, was a goddamn enigma, her laughter a little too loud, her eyes a little too bright, her touch a little too eager as she flitted through the crowd, the life of the party, the belle of the ball, the queen bee of deception. I watched her, my heart a lead weight in my chest, the knowledge of her infidelity a poison seeping through my veins. Jim's confession, his tearful apology, his plea for forgiveness, echoed in my mind, a discordant counterpoint to the festive music and the forced gaiety of the celebration. "Jane," I said, my voice a carefully controlled monotone that belied the turmoil within me. "Can we talk?" She turned, her smile faltering for a fleeting moment, a flicker of guilt betraying her carefully constructed facade. "Of course, darling," she purred, her voice a saccharine symphony of innocence that made my stomach churn. "What's on your mind?" We stepped out onto the balcony, the crisp winter air a welcome contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the party, the city lights a mocking reminder of the shattered dreams that lay scattered at my feet. "I know about you and Jim," I said, the words a blunt instrument, a hammer blow to the fragile illusion of our marriage. Her eyes widened, a perfectly orchestrated performance of shock and disbelief. "Jim? What are you talking about, John? Have you been drinking?" "Don't insult my intelligence, Jane," I countered, my voice hardening, the anger finally breaking through the carefully constructed dam of composure. "I know what happened at the Christmas party. Jim told me everything." Her face contorted with a fury that was as breathtaking as it was revealing. "That bastard!" she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "He lied to you, John. He tried to take advantage of me, to seduce me. But I pushed him away. I would never betray you, not with him, not with anyone." The lie, so audacious, so seamlessly woven into a tapestry of feigned outrage and victimhood, almost made me laugh. Almost. But the hurt, the betrayal, the sheer audacity of her deception choked the laughter in my throat, replaced by a cold, hard fury that settled in my gut like a stone. "He even had the nerve to tell you that I... She choked back a sob, her voice cracking with a manufactured vulnerability that made my skin crawl. "That I slept with him? How could you believe him, John? How could you doubt me?" The manipulation was masterful, a performance worthy of an Oscar. She twisted the narrative, shifted the blame, turned herself into the victim, the innocent prey of a predatory best friend and a gullible husband. And for a fleeting moment, I almost faltered, almost succumbed to the familiar comfort of her lies, the seductive allure of the life we had built together. But the truth, like a shard of broken glass, pierced through the fog of her deception, its sharp edges a reminder of the betrayal I had suffered, the trust I had misplaced, the love I had wasted. Ah, yes, playing the fool. It's a role I've been cast in before, a part I've perfected over years of observing the human mating dance, the intricate ballet of deception and self-delusion that passes for romance. So, I'll play along, my dear Jane, my deceitful wife, my queen of melodrama. I'll wear the mask of the gullible husband, the trusting fool, the man who's so blinded by love that he can't see the lipstick stains on the collar and the scent of another man's cologne clinging to your skin. "Oh, Jane," I sighed, my voice a carefully crafted symphony of concern and naivete. "How could Jim do this to us? To you? To our friendship?" She clutched my hand, her eyes shimmering with crocodile tears, her voice a tremulous whisper of wounded innocence. "I don't know, John," she sobbed, her performance worthy of an Emmy Award. "I was so vulnerable, so drunk, so lost. He took advantage of me." And I nodded, my face a mask of understanding, my heart a clenched fist of fury. "The bastard!" I mutter, my voice laced with a righteous anger that's as fake as her orgasms. "I'll never forgive him for this. He's not just betrayed our friendship, he's betrayed our marriage, our trust, our love, John." She finished, her voice cracking with a manufactured emotion that makes me want to vomit. "But I still love you. Only you. And I'll never let anyone come between us again." And I'll pull her close, my arms a cage, my touch a violation, my smile a predator's grin. "I love you too, Jane," I whisper, my voice a silken lie that wraps around her deceit like a python's embrace. "And I believe you. I trust you. I'll never doubt you again." She relaxed into my arms, her body a deceptive warmth against mine, her relief as palpable as the champagne fumes clinging to her breath. "You've won this round, haven't you, my dear? You've played the victim, manipulated the narrative, and emerged from the wreckage of your own betrayal with your carefully constructed image intact. But the game is far from over, Jane. This is just the opening act, the prelude to a symphony of revenge that will make your little performance look like a kindergarten play. I'm watching you, my dear, observing your every move, your every lie, your every manipulative tactic. And when the time is right, when the stage is set, when the audience is primed and ready, I'll drop the mask, reveal the truth, and expose you for the fraud you are. The anniversary is coming, Jane. Our anniversary. A celebration of love, of trust, of a commitment that you have so carelessly trampled on. And on that day, my dear, you will receive a gift. A gift that will not only expose your lies, but also shatter your illusions. A gift that will make you regret the day you ever doubted my intelligence, my resolve, my capacity for revenge. The countdown has begun, Jane, and the clock is ticking. Dude, you're seriously going to cook her horse? Carter choked on his beer, his eyes widening with a mix of horror and morbid fascination. Not just any horse, my friend, I corrected, a wicked grin spreading across my face. Epona, her precious, pampered, pony-turned goddess Epona. Carter, bless his squeamish heart, shuddered. Dude, that's messed up, even for you. Messed up? I scoffed, taking a swig of my own beer, the bitterness a perfect complement to the symphony of revenge brewing in my brain. She messed up first. She lied, she cheated, she trampled on our friendship, our marriage, our goddamn vows, and now she's going to pay. The plan had been simmering for weeks, a slow-cooked stew of vengeance seasoned with a healthy dose of fuck you and a dash of culinary sadism. Jane, with her holier-than-thou attitude and her hypocrisy about horses being family, not food, had unwittingly handed me the perfect weapon. Epona, the apple of her eye, the object of her equine affection, the four-legged goddess she'd rather share a stable with than a plate. But how are you going to, acquire the necessary ingredients? Carter asked, his voice a hesitant whisper, his eyes darting nervously towards the door, as if expecting PETA operatives to burst in and stage a protest. Don't worry about the details, my friend, I said, waving a dismissive hand. Let's just say I have a source who understands the importance of discretion and the therapeutic benefits of a well-executed revenge plot. The anniversary was fast approaching. The date circled on my calendar with the ominous red ink of impending doom. I'd already booked the restaurant, a swanky little bistro with a reputation for culinary excellence and a clientele that wouldn't bat an eyelid at a plate of unconventional protein. She's going to lose her shit, Carter chuckled, his initial squeamishness giving way to a grudging admiration for my audacity. That's the plan, my friend, I said, a predatory gleam in my eyes. The main course is just the beginning. I've got a few other surprises up my sleeve, a symphony of payback that will make her regret the day she ever crossed me. The anticipation was a heady drug, fueling my every move, my every thought, my every carefully crafted smile as I played the role of the devoted husband, the clueless fool, the man who was blissfully unaware of his wife's betrayal. Jane, bless her oblivious heart, was lapping it up, her guilt masked by a renewed enthusiasm for our marriage, her apologies as fake as her orgasms. But the game was almost over, darling. The stage was set, the actors in place, the audience eagerly awaiting the final act. And when the curtain fell, when the truth was revealed, when the stench of your hypocrisy filled the air, you'd realize that you'd messed with the wrong man, underestimated the depths of my fury, the creativity of my vengeance, the sheer audacity of my payback. This wasn't just about a broken heart, Jane. It was about a broken trust, a shattered friendship, a life that had been twisted and manipulated by your lies. And I, John, the man you thought you could control, the husband you thought you could deceive, was about to serve you a dish best served cold. Revenge, with a side of horse meat and a generous helping of fuck you. The apartment, usually a testament to Jane's questionable taste in throw pillows and floral arrangements, was undergoing a transformation worthy of an HGTV makeover show. Out with the frilly curtains and the scented candles. In with the sleek minimalism and the strategically placed mood lighting. I scattered rose petals with the precision of a goddamn botanical artist, their crimson hues a stark contrast to the blood-red fury simmering in my veins. Candles flickered, casting dancing shadows that hinted at the darkness lurking beneath the surface of this carefully orchestrated romantic facade. And from the hidden speakers, a playlist of soulful jazz crooned its seductive melody, a soundtrack to the impending downfall of my deceitful wife. This is surprisingly tasteful, John, Mr. Peterson, my lawyer, remarked, his voice a gravelly rumble that echoed through the dimly lit apartment. I didn't peg you for the romantic type. Desperate times call for desperate measures, Peterson, I said, my voice a low purr of determination. Besides, a little ambiance never hurt anyone, especially when it's the prelude to a psychological takedown that would make Machiavelli proud. Peterson chuckled, his eyes twinkling with a predatory gleam that mirrored my own. Indeed, and the pièces de résistance, he inquired, his gaze lingering on the covered dish that sat at the center of the meticulously set table. Let's just say, I said, lifting the lid with a flourish that would make a magician proud, that it's a dish best served cold, and that Jane's going to have a hard time stomaching it. The aroma of roasted meat, rich and savory, filled the air, a deceptive invitation to a feast that would turn her stomach, shatter her illusions, and expose the hypocrisy that had been festering beneath the surface of our marriage. The steak, a beautiful cut of, well, let's just say it wasn't from the local butcher shop, was cooked to perfection, its juices glistening under the candlelight. A culinary masterpiece designed to deliver a shock that would be as unforgettable as it was deserved. "You're a cruel bastard, Carter," Peterson said, his voice laced with a grudging admiration. "Cruelty is a dish best served with a side of justice, Peterson," I corrected, my smile widening. "And Jane, my dear, is about to have a 5-course meal." The divorce papers, crisp and official, lay on the coffee table, their legalese a symphony of liberation, a testament to the meticulous planning that had gone into this meticulously orchestrated revenge. Peterson, with his usual efficiency, had outlined the terms, the house, the assets, the custody arrangements, every detail a carefully calculated move in the game of marital chess I was about to win. "She'll fight you, of course," Peterson warned, his voice a sobering reminder of the battle that lay ahead. "She'll play the victim, the innocent wife, the wronged woman. But we're ready for her, Carter. We've got the evidence, the witnesses, the goddamn truth on our side." "And I've got the main course," I added, my grin widening, the anticipation bubbling within me like a cauldron of molten lava. The apartment, now a stage for my carefully orchestrated revenge, hummed with a tension that was as palpable as the scent of roses and roasted. Well, let's just say it wasn't beef. I surveyed the scene, my eyes lingering on every detail, every carefully placed prop in this drama of betrayal and retribution. The candles flickered, casting dancing shadows that hinted at the darkness that was about to be unleashed. The music played, its soft melody a deceptive counterpoint to the storm brewing within me. And the steak, that culinary masterpiece of deception, sat waiting, a silent testament to the lengths I would go to expose the lies, reclaim my life, and serve my wife a dish of cold, hard revenge she would never forget. The door swung open, and Jane stepped into a scene straight out of a cheesy romance novel. Rose petals scattered across the floor like a drunken florist's farewell tribute, candlelight flickering like a stripper's bra at closing time, and the smooth sounds of Barry White crooning from hidden speakers. It was a masterpiece of deception, a carefully constructed illusion designed to lull her into a false sense of security. "Oh, John," she breathed, her eyes widening with a manufactured delight that would make a Disney princess gag. "This is amazing." "Only the best for my darling wife," I purred, my voice a saccharine symphony of faux affection that would make a used car salesman blush. "Happy anniversary, my love." She glided across the room, her designer dress shimmering like a disco ball in a blackout, her perfume a cloying blend of vanilla and deceit that made my nostrils twitch. I pulled out her chair, the gentlemanly gesture a subtle mockery of the trust she had so carelessly trampled on. "You've really outdone yourself, darling," she cooed, her gaze sweeping over the meticulously set table, the silverware gleaming like a surgeon's scalpel in the candlelight. "This is romantic." "Romantic?" I echoed, raising an eyebrow with a playful smirk. "You think so? I was aiming for psychotically obsessive, but hey, I'll take what I can get." She giggled, her laughter a brittle sound that grated on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. I poured her a glass of champagne, the bubbles rising like the bile in my throat, the anticipation of her impending downfall a delicious appetizer to the main course of revenge I was about to serve. To us, I toasted, my eyes locking with hers, the irony of the sentiment as thick as the gravy on a Thanksgiving turkey. To us, she echoed, her smile faltering for a fleeting moment, a flicker of unease crossing her face that I savored like a fine vintage wine. I lifted the lid of the serving dish, the aroma of roasted meat filling the air, a deceptive invitation to a feast that would turn her stomach, shatter her illusions, and expose the hypocrisy that had been festering beneath the surface of our marriage. "I hope you're hungry, darling," I said, my voice laced with a subtle darkness that only I could decipher. "I've prepared something special." She eyed the steak, its perfectly seared crust glistening under the candlelight, her carnivorous instincts momentarily overriding the nagging suspicion that something was amiss. "It looks delicious, John," she said, her voice a hesitant tremor that betrayed her growing unease. "What is it?" "Just a little something I whipped up," I replied, my smile widening, the anticipation bubbling within me like a cauldron of molten lava. "A surprise." She took a bite, her eyes widening with a mix of delight and confusion. "This is amazing," she mumbled, her voice muffled by the mouthful of, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly Angus beef. "Glad you like it, darling," I purred, my voice a predator's purr, my eyes gleaming with a satisfaction that was as dark as the secret I was about to reveal. "It's a special breed, imported, very rare." She swallowed, a flicker of doubt crossing her face, her gaze darting between me and the plate, her intuition finally catching up with the carefully orchestrated deception. "John," she began, her voice a hesitant whisper. This tastes different. What exactly is it?" I leaned forward, my smile widening, the moment of truth finally upon us. "It's epona, darling," I said, my voice a soft hiss that sliced through the romantic facade like a razor blade. "Your beloved epona." The words hung in the air, a toxic cloud of truth that poisoned the carefully curated atmosphere of our anniversary dinner. Jane's eyes widened, her pupils dilating like a cartoon character who'd just seen a ghost, her face paling to a shade that would make a vampire look like a sunbather. "Epona?" she choked out, her voice a strangled whisper that barely registered above the Barry White soundtrack that was now a cruel mockery of our shattered reality. What do you mean, Epona?" I leaned back in my chair, a smirk playing on my lips, the satisfaction of seeing her carefully constructed facade crumble as delicious as the forbidden fruit she'd been feasting on. "Epona, darling," I purred, my voice a predator's serenade. "As in your precious, pampered, pony-turned goddess Epona. The one you swore you'd never eat, the one you treated like a member of the goddamn royal family." Her hand flew to her mouth, her carefully manicured nails scraping against her suddenly pale lips, her eyes darting between me and the plate, the reality of the situation hitting her with the force of a runaway horse-drawn carriage. You bastard!" she shrieked, the shriek morphing into a strangled gasp as the first wave of nausea hit her, the realization of what she had consumed sending her stomach into a revolt that would make a food critic gag. She scrambled to her feet, her chair clattering to the floor like a guillotine's final thud, her body a marionette puppet with its strings cut, her movements a frantic dance of disgust and despair. "Bathroom! Bathroom!" she gasped, her voice a strangled plea for a sanctuary that was about to become her own personal hell. I watched her stumble towards the bathroom, my grin widening, the anticipation of the final act of this twisted drama making my blood sing. She fumbled with the doorknob, her desperation growing with each passing second, her stomach churning with a vengeance that would make a sailor seasick. She flung open the door, her eyes widening in horror as she took in the scene. The toilet seat, its lid duct-taped shut, a cruel parody of her own sealed fate. And the final touch, the pièce de résistance of my revenge. Epona's braid, a silken reminder of the hypocrisy she had so carelessly displayed, now a grotesque garnish on the altar of her own undoing. "Oh God," she moaned, her legs giving way beneath her body collapsing onto the bathroom tiles, the vomit erupting from her lips like a geyser of disgust, the stench of her betrayal mingling with the lingering scent of lavender and deceit. I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed, my eyes gleaming with a cold satisfaction that was as intoxicating as the champagne she had so eagerly consumed. "Happy anniversary, darling," I purred, my voice a venomous whisper that echoed through the bathroom, a final punctuation mark on the sentence of her betrayal. She looked up at me, her face a mask of horror and disbelief, her voice a broken sob. You monster! How could you? How could I?" I echoed, my voice rising with the righteous anger that had been simmering for months. "How could you, Jane? How could you lie, cheat, betray the trust I had so foolishly placed in you? How could you play me for a fool while you were off gallivanting with my best friend, my supposed brother, the man I had welcomed into our home, our lives, our—" My voice cracked, the pain of betrayal a sharp pang in my chest, a reminder of the love I had wasted, the life I had almost lost. "You're not the man I thought you were, John," she whispered, her voice laced with a fear that was as satisfying as it was unexpected. "No, Jane," I agreed, my voice hardening with a resolve that was as cold and unforgiving as the winter storm that had raged outside our window on the night she had betrayed me. I'm not. I'm not the fool you thought you could manipulate, the husband you thought you could deceive, the friend you thought you could betray without consequence." I stepped closer, my shadow falling over her, my eyes boring into hers with an intensity that made her flinch. "You've made your bed, Jane," I said, my voice a low growl that echoed the thunder of my own fury. "Now lie in it." I turned and walked away, leaving her to wallow in the wreckage of her own making, the stench of her vomit a fitting accompaniment to the bitter taste of her betrayal. The apartment, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and comfortable routines, now felt like a prison, its walls closing in on her, the echoes of her lies and deceptions a haunting reminder of the life she had destroyed, the love she had lost, the trust she had shattered. And as I walked out the door, the key turning in the lock with a finality that mirrored the severing of our ties, a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Satisfaction, yes, at having exposed her lies, at having delivered a payback that was as unforgettable as it was deserved, but also a profound sadness, a lingering ache for the woman I had once loved, the life we had shared, the future we had envisioned together. The silence of my apartment was a symphony compared to the cacophony of emotions that had been my soundtrack for the past few months. Jane was gone, her presence a lingering scent of betrayal and cheap perfume that I was slowly but surely eradicating with a combination of industrial-strength cleaning products and a healthy dose of fuck you energy. The satisfaction of revenge was a potent cocktail, a bittersweet blend of triumph and a lingering ache for the life we had shared, the future we had envisioned, the love that had been twisted and corrupted by her deceit. I looked around the apartment, the remnants of our anniversary dinner a stark reminder of the night I had served her a dish of cold, hard payback. The rose petals, now withered and brown, were scattered across the floor like fallen soldiers in a battle I had won. The candles, their flames extinguished, cast long shadows that danced with the ghosts of our past. And the empty plates, the remnants of the feast that had turned her stomach, were a testament to the bitter taste of her betrayal. "Dude, you're a legend." Jim's voice, a hesitant whisper on the other end of the line, broke through the silence, his words a mix of awe and a lingering guilt that I knew would haunt him for years to come. "A legend?" I scoffed, though a smirk tugged at the corners of my lips. "Or just a guy who knows how to cook a mean horse steak?" "No, seriously, John," he insisted, his voice gaining strength. "What you did, it was epic. Jane deserved it. She's been playing us both for fools." "And now she's the fool," I finished, the satisfaction of victory a warm glow in the pit of my stomach. Alone, humiliated, and probably smelling like a stable after a rainstorm. But the conversation wasn't just about gloating, about reveling in Jane's downfall. It was also about rebuilding, about salvaging the friendship that had been collateral damage in her web of deceit. "I'm sorry, John," Jim said, his voice thick with remorse. "I never meant to hurt you. I was an idiot, blinded by I don't know what. But I screwed up, big time, and I'll never forgive myself for it." "I know, Jim," I said, my voice softening, the anger giving way to a weary understanding. "We both screwed up. We trusted her, we believed in her, we let her manipulate us. But we're not fools, Jim. We're just human, and humans make mistakes." "But this wasn't just a mistake, John," he argued, his voice laced with a self-loathing that mirrored my own. "This was a betrayal, a violation of everything we stood for, everything we believed in." "And we'll learn from it, Jim," I said, my voice firm, my resolve strengthened by the knowledge that I wasn't alone in this battle. That the friendship we had forged in the fires of childhood, a bond that had weathered the storms of adolescence and the challenges of adulthood, was still worth fighting for. We'll move on. We'll find a way to rebuild, to forgive, to maybe even laugh about it one day. The laughter, when it came, was a hesitant sound, a fragile echo in the vast emptiness that Jane had left behind. But it was also a beginning, a tentative step towards healing, a promise of a future where friendship, loyalty, and self-respect would be the guiding principles, the foundation upon which we would build a new chapter in our lives. And as I hung up the phone, the silence of my apartment no longer a source of loneliness, but a sanctuary for reflection, a space for healing, a blank canvas upon which I could paint a new masterpiece, a life that was finally, truly my own. The journey ahead was still uncertain, the path forward filled with challenges and unexpected twists. But I was no longer the man who had been defined by his marriage, his wife's betrayals, the shattered remnants of a life that had been built on lies. I was John, the survivor, the friend, the man who had weathered the storm and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead.